March was just a bad time to be alive.
Well, it was April.
No, well, April wasn't great either.
Yeah.
Also May, June, July, August, September, October's but November's been on a upswing.
I was on Facebook, and how people share that the first 3 words you see are going to be what your 2021 focuses on. And the first word I saw was crabs. And I was like, I really hope that's the food. Because I'm happy
those things
about
are so dumb.
But I was like, crabs?
You would look at those and find 3 words.
Of course, I didn't share it because I got crabs. Maybe if I got something special, I wouldn't. I saw crabs 3 times. What does that mean? Oh yeah, it was bad. It was a bad time. All right.
Well, so if you don't know, this is from The Voice. This is Kevin famously from the Mad Men episode.
Welcome
famously
back.
from Julie's church.
Yes.
Famously from Julie's church, and I've only been there for the past 7 months.
Can you shut
She comes and gets me out
up?
of the church when she wants me to say things.
Oh my god.
So he picked season. I'm going off the top of my head with this. Season 2, episode 8, Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Of Master of None. Okay. Yeah, I didn't remember, but it's funny because this is the second time I've watched this. Both because of you. The first time I was literally with you. It was the most hungover I've ever been in my entire life. I can literally say that it was the worst hangover I've ever had.
I don't actually think we should even get into the damage you caused the night before on live on air.
We can if we
No,
want.
can we though?
I may have caused so much damage that we had to move hotel rooms. Is kind of
I don't
the
remember
story.
if we moved hotel rooms, but Kathleen just,
What do you mean you don't remember?
I don't remember if we had to move or not. I was caught up in the moment, but you were also, Kathleen wanted to take a bath when she was drunk and she flooded the hotel room.
And where were you, Kevin?
Kevin? Okay, so that's kind of the
You were-
story. I escaped.
Oh my god.
I escaped.
Kathleen escaped and we couldn't find her.
We
She
were
was
at a
taking
wedding.
bath and then-
And Kevin is my
Kevin
always...
is holding his chest laughing. I just want everyone to know that.
It's my most, the statute of limitations are up on my scaries. I can tell this story without wanting to literally die. But me and Kevin were at a wedding. He was my date and we were with our friends Bridget and Sean. And we shared a hotel room. But post-wedding, we knew the bartender, correct? So I think she was just I was drinking vodka sodas and she was just putting 8 shots in each one.
Yeah.
And
I don't think that we should blame the bartender here. I think we just all got caught up in the joy of a wedding, and Kathleen, we had some drinks, and then we were stuck in Kathleen was stuck in the bathroom because then me and Sean had to knock down the door because there was water coming out from underneath the door.
Oh my god.
Mom and Dad, please don't listen to this one. Bridget's my best friend, and she was so mad at me. Told this story to her the other day, and she goes, I wasn't mad at you. I was like, you wouldn't look me in the eye, because I came too after you guys opened the door and we're like, what do you... And I kind of was like, what? And you were like, look down. What is happening here? And I was like, I don't know what was happening in that bathroom. I think I was just asleep. And you woke me up.
The best reaction was that door got barged down, and Kathleen just goes, what?
But we did have to switch rooms because in the morning we had to call the downstairs to check the other room for my dress, my bridesmaid's dress, because it was soaking wet on the floor under inches of water. I hate myself. But anyway, so then the next day we were in Kevin's childhood bedroom. I was in his brother's bed. He was in his, and we were across the room just watching this. And I remember being like, this is such a good episode, but I want to die.
Aww.
I want to be dead right now. So this was a much more enjoyable experience watching it this time around.
That's good, because I also tried to make you watch another episode of that series right before, and Kathleen had a full, we can't watch this. And I was like, okay, we'll try another one. Because, I don't love this show. I think it has its moments, and I think, right off the bat, the acting style is really weird of this show. It's not, it feels unscripted, but it feels like the acting's not great, but I don't really know if that's the intent, with the exception of this episode. So
We did watch another episode, right? The one where it's from the POV of someone who's deaf.
It's from 3 people in New York. It's called like I Love New York or something, I think, is that episode. And that episode's great too.
Yeah, well, that's the one where I could hear my hangover in my ears. Like, it was a silent episode.
Oh, I think you talked about this on the Madman episode.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no, this is bad. But the Thanksgiving one is really good. So can you, have you seen both seasons of this, Kev?
Yeah.
Can you just give a gist of Master of None first, and then we'll get into the episode?
And it's been a while since I watched it, but my memory of it is it's like loosely based on Aziz Ansari's life, where he's like, struggling being an actor and like getting some odd jobs, and he just is like trying to get odd jobs and dates a bunch of women. Like dates like a ton of women, and then like there's some women that like stay in the storyline, but it's really more just like random stories. And then especially season 2 starts to like break that narrative a lot, especially this episode. Like no one in this episode is in any other episode except for Lena Waithe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just very New York nerd show and very like love and acting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to actually ask you, because I'm trying to do better with writing down characters' names, so I'm not like this person's Anne or whatever, and I was trying to look up what Aunt Joyce's name was, and I just typed in cast, and I couldn't find anybody, and then like I was scrolling through the cast, and it was like 100 people, but like it would be like one episode, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Is this correct?
Yeah, it's just a bunch of random people. I mean, I'm looking at her now. I'm looking at her Wikipedia because I watched it last night with someone, and we were both like, she reminds me of the mom from Sister's Sister.
Yeah, she does.
So much, but a little bit different. I forget that actress's name too. I'm off my game right now, but she was great. And like, I don't know, this episode's like really beautiful, and Angela Bassett is
she's the
like
best.
Anything that she's in.
I know, you must have loved that from Coven.
All American Horror Story.
That's your girl. Yeah.
And she's 62.
Wow, she's beautiful.
Yeah, she is.
I do love her. I was reading an article. Someone was interviewing Lena Waithe, and so she plays Denise in the episode, and she basically wrote the episode. It's based off of her life or whatever, her real life, and Angela was kind of like the dream. Like, if we could get her, that'd be dope. There's no way we get her. So when they actually did get her and she said yes, they were like, fuck. And she just said that Angela was like the best on screen as like a mentor and everything else. And I was like, that just tracks completely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She was great. All the women in this episode are incredible. And then it's like, I mean, the episode, it is good because it's like, it's one that breaks the narrative structure, and I like that it goes over time, and I think it's a very realistic view of how that would happen. And then, yeah, like you said, Lena Waithe wrote it, and then she won an Emmy for it. And she was the first like Black woman to win an Emmy for
So it was a
comedy
writing Emmy, not an acting Emmy.
Ever. It was a writing, yeah, because I mean,
I just wasn't sure.
but I don't know. What did you've never seen the show?
No,
Julie.
I have not. I don't like Aziz.
Is it because of the article Kevin sent earlier today?
No, but that didn't help. I just don't think he's funny.
So we might as well just get into it. Aziz, we're talking about Aziz, obviously, and he has some like allegations against him. But before we get into that, a couple weeks ago, we did a Parks and Rec episode with Brooke, a repeat guest, and she was like, I fucking hate Aziz. Like, I hate Tom Haverford. She didn't say Aziz. She said Tom Haverford from Parks and Rec, obviously, who he plays. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I totally get that take, but I love all the characters on Parks and Rec. There isn't anyone that I'm like, I fucking hate this person. I think as an ensemble, they're incredible. So once she said that, and I re-listened to our episode we did, and I was like, yeah, you know what? He is kind of annoying, but I haven't like rewatched Parks and Rec in a while. And I knew the allegations, but I never really like kept up with that one. But then when you sent the article about it today, and it is like, I think he wasn't completely canceled, but it is bad. It's very bad. But I want to talk about why we think he wasn't fully canceled, because it's not like, I just think he totally abused his power of like celebrity and whatever it was. And some of the like weird details they were doing, I'm like, only a fucking celebrity could get away with like fucking putting your fingers in my mouth every 10 seconds.
My worst nightmare.
Especially right now. Can you imagine someone sticking your fingers in? You just made. Here's my thing about the Aziz thing, and why I don't think he got fully canceled, is because one, sexual assault is about gaining power, and asserting power over somebody else. And it really just didn't seem like he was trying to assert power or put himself into a position of power, but he was using his power to, like, which is different. But he's not fully canceled because, like, this came out in a time that it was like Kevin Spacey and
Harvey and fucking Louis.
Yeah, and I would equate like Louis C.K. and Aziz Ansari's allegations almost equivalent, but Louis C.K. went on to like completely mock all the allegations, and Aziz eventually like apologized and was like, I truly didn't know that I was putting somebody in that position. And like a lot of people read into this article as if it's just a bad date. There is some aggression here, but I can say that like everyone I know has been on a date where they are like, this is not what I would want to do, or I'm like, this is not where I wanted it to go. So I don't think he's like fully evil for it, and I think he still has a chance to come back because he has addressed it.
I think there's something to be said about the fact that he could not take a social cue from her. It's kind of bizarre, and then she has to go watch him win an Emmy or whatever it was he won, or Golden Globe, and talk about the Me Too movement and be like, when like I totally agree with you where like people have weird dates and weird sexual encounters and like sticking fingers in the mouths and whatever it is. I mean, whatever your kink is, I'm not shaming that by any means, but multiple times in the article she's kind of like, I was like, you're making me uncomfortable. And he was kind of not even picking up on that. But I don't know, it does put a definite kind of damper on him for me. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm like, ugh, Aziz. Is that why Master of None got canceled?
It didn't get canceled, did it? I think
I don't remember that.
I think it just takes a long time for him to write and film it because he writes films and directs it. So he was like, it'll come when I have more ideas to do it. That was originally.
I did find an article interview with Aziz from 2017 about a third season of Master of None. He said, I don't know if we'll ever do a season 3. I wouldn't be surprised, but I need to take a break before I come back to do it. I have to be a different person before I write a third season is my personal thoughts. I need to get married or have a kid or something. I don't really have anything else to say about being a young guy that's single in New York, eating food around the town all the time. Netflix in 2018 expressed interest in creating a third season whenever Aziz is ready to do it.
Nice. Yeah, see, like I don't know this show. I love this episode, but I don't know. Do you want to chime in on the Aziz stuff? This is like a lot more intense than we usually get.
I know. This is like our most serious episode, I feel like.
Well, we'll get in. And the episode's pretty serious, too.
I know, but I loved it. So, like, it was like one of those episodes that's like, when I was reading it, too, like, I'm like, sis, get the fuck up and leave.
Yeah.
Like, in the situation, I don't know what I would do. But I was getting, like, mad. Like, I'm like, get up and leave.
Yeah, she also mentions that she had preconceived notions of him just from, like, watching him on TV or hearing him on interviews of how he, like, should have been, quote unquote. So then when she was there and this was happening, it was kind of going against how she thought the night was going to go. So she thought maybe she could turn it around based on these, like, preconceived notions of him. So I don't know. It seems like a lot of big fucking question marks thrown and a lot of just throwing dicks around everywhere, but I don't know. But we could get into the episode.
And the last thing I want to address before you guys dive into the episode is I know Kevin was saying that the show is kind of weird with the way that it's acted and it's shot, and I think that a big reason for that is because the influences that it's pulling from are like really not stuff that a lot of people in America get exposed to. He was trying to recreate like old Italian films from the 60s and like the French New Wave of the 70s as a sitcom. So it's got, like, if you watch any of those shows, they're both like very clunky. They're also very slice of life, but then they dabble in like fantasy and like kind of like outlandish, like a false reality. Like there's like moments where all of a sudden, like if it's an all black and white movie, it might suddenly turn into like 5 minutes of an animated, bright colored segment to show that like someone's on drugs, and then we'll like go back to being like a black and white, quiet, moody film. So he was trying to see if he could do a series of those like normally 2.5 hour movies in 30-minute chunks.
That makes sense, especially with season 2 and the beginning of season 2.
Let's hop in to the actual episode.
Okay.
Kevin, tell us what this episode of Master of None is about.
Well, Julie, this episode is pretty much about Lena Waithe's character, Denise, and her experience with discovering / confronting the fact that she thinks she's a lesbian, like, over time, and the narrative structures that it's told as, like, she's growing up over Thanksgiving. So we see, like, her and Aziz Ansari's character Dev, like, as kids, and then we jump forward to other Thanksgivings, and, like, she starts to be dressing differently and acting differently, and then she eventually comes out to Dev, and then we see her later on telling her mom and bringing eventual girlfriends over to the episode. So it's really just framed with the same people, just over a random course of time, like 20 years or something. But it was good. I mean, it's a great way to do that because she said it was like a very realistic way for her, and this is how she confronted it. But looking at it just one day a year is, like, really interesting.
Yeah, as someone coming into season 2 without knowing any of these characters, first of all, I thought Lena Waithe's character, Denise, was more of a... Is she in every single episode or no?
She's in a lot of them. She's a recurring character, but it's only her and Aziz's characters are the only recurring characters in this episode.
Yeah, as a standalone thing and doing it on the same day across many years, you really do, like, start to love these characters. It's a very effective way to get in their heads and see her, like, come out over these 5 or 6 different Thanksgivings. I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Big fan.
It was one of those episodes where you're, like, hysterically laughing at some things and then it's, like, heartfelt in other scenes. When I watch shows for this podcast, I typically am, like, on my phone half the time. Then I have to, like, fast forward.
Brat.
But I'm just the worst. I just can't focus on stuff. But this episode, I literally didn't touch my phone. And I was just, like,
I'm
super
proud of
into
you.
it. Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So but it was just, like, again, like, there was really hilarious scenes. I love the aunt. Aunt Joyce is amazing. She just cracks me up, and I love her as an actress in general. She's in Young and Hungry, and she's just great. I think she's the only reason why I watch that.
Oh, she is?
Mhm.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but then again, it, like, hits you with, like, the reality of things and how that's how some people with, like, how Denise's mom was, like, not cool about her being a lesbian in the beginning, and how generally over time she became more accepted of it. Like, me and Kathleen were talking actually today about, like, how we don't know what people go through in situations like that. Like,
You don't know unless it's something like, even in the article I read, Aziz went up to Lena's like, we want this story to be told, but you have to be the one to write it. Like, no one else can write it. This is your story. You have to be the one to write it. I mean, I think that's an issue with writers' rooms, and they've gotten much better, but over time in writers' rooms, people are writing things about, like, Black culture or LGBTQ or whatever it is, but they don't have the representation in the writers' room, and it shows on screen, and people are like, what the fuck? Like, you need more diverse writers' room, which I mean, now they're getting much better. Obviously, there's, like, more work to be done, but
Yeah.
I think with so much content coming out recently, it's gotten much better.
Yeah, and I think it's a really, I mean, you can definitely tell it's from a personal level, and, like, I think that each character is, like, so well portrayed in this episode because they're consistent throughout the whole thing. Like, and even their jokes are consistent throughout the whole thing too, because, like, the subtle hint about, like, how a lot of African Americans didn't think that OJ did it, and then, like, later on, and they're like, if she was Black, we wouldn't even be talking about this. Talking about OJ's wife, and then they made that joke later. What did they talk about later? But they made the same joke later about the same stuff. And also, I don't think I've ever seen an episode of TV that's made so many Jennifer Aniston jokes in different ways. They reference, like,
Right?
every single form of that Jennifer Aniston has ever taken. She's like,
When she's high and she's like, I just need to kick it with Jen for a bit. I was like, go, sis. I'm like, yeah. There were so many laugh out loud moments in this episode for it being, like, a very heartwarming, like, a story is being told, like a bigger story is being told here. And yet some of the lines, I was, like, fucking cracking up. And even Aziz in it, like, every time he was yelling at the table and Aunt Joyce is looking at, like, shut up, like, please stop. Like, I was fucking dying every time. Because, oh my God, Nipples and Toes had me fucking in tears. That is such a good gag.
yeah.
Also, fuck you, Deb, for, like, making her say that so many times. I'd be like, if I was
my
Denise, I'd be
God.
like, I'm gonna kick your ass.
Yeah.
the one quote I wrote down is when he's like, is like talking to the grandma about what she put in her yams this year, and he's like yelling it across the table, and Aunt Joyce is like, she added nutmeg, don't ask another fucking question.
I mean, I think that like you saying like Aziz does get annoying in other shows too. Like his characters are always annoying, and like this kind of annoying is like when Aziz Ansari is like the best at his job, like being annoying throughout this entire episode.
I just loved the idea of him being there every single Thanksgiving and him being a part of the family and such a staple that they're like, yeah, Dev's here every Thanksgiving, and they're always just up in the room. I love it. He's like, Dev and Denise tap recital to like 1999. Should we put this in? Like, I was like, I love these two as best friends. It does like it. I mean, all three of us have been best friends for a very long time as well, and especially like Kev, me. That reminds me of me and you, kind of just being like, I started being friends with you at the time when humans can like be like, oh yes, that's my friend. Like before you, it's like you're too young and stupid to even be able to pick friends. You know what I mean? So you're in like every memory I have.
Yeah, I think that's the same with both of you, because Julie, I was in preschool with, or not preschool, but
I was gonna say, if you say church,
I was in. Church is really important to me, so bring it up again. And Julie and I went to church together. I don't know if that's been said on this podcast. Kathleen used to bully me in first grade, and then we slowly became friends over the course of elementary school, and that's how that happened. And we're not going to dispute it.
Bitch. No, I don't remember a time when me and you weren't best friends, but whatever.
We were best friends.
I'm actually going to back up that statement. I agree. I feel like you guys have been friends forever. I was saying I'm backing that up. I stand behind that.
That's a good...
that cuts me deep, Kev.
Those non-angel eyes.
I mean, yeah, I probably was. Not angel eyes. I hate you. I probably was a little evil growing up, whatever. But I remember it being like me, you, and Zach.
Oh yeah, we were both evil growing up, but just different. Yeah, I was evil too. Come on, I would never. What grade could we never teach ourselves? It's middle school, because we were terrible people in middle school.
I will say there is not another relationship in my life, like outside of my family, of course, that feels more like a brother-sister relationship, because me and you have gotten in 1 million fights. Like, I mean, me and you, I mean, it truly just feels like I do love you so much that, and we have that kind of like randomly growing up, we get annoyed at each other for things, and like, yeah, and you're the only one, and I love you the most, but I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. There was a lot of
that's
times
true. We
where
did fight.
I feel like Kathleen especially, but there was definitely times when like you both would use your phones as a defense tool, where you just like wouldn't answer people, and that was like in the time when if you're not answering someone for a long time, it's like really offensive. And now I don't answer anyone ever.
You never answer me, and it's so hurtful. I fucking hate it. I genuinely hate it. No, you don't.
Yes,
Producer Matt here. You're the only guest I have to bring in reinforcements to get booked on the show. Because God forbid if I message you on anything, you don't respond. I'm like, Kathleen, you got to harass Kevin so we can get this episode recorded.
You're
Come on.
the worst.
Please be better.
I'm pretty sure, Kathleen, when you came on the first time, Kathleen said you were coming on, and I was like, I texted Kevin like 3 months ago, and he never responded, so I don't know if we're like cool anymore.
I'm terrible. I'm really terrible at texting. Like, I just don't answer my phone, and then I'll see something, and then I'll do a mental response to it, and then I'll just be like, I did that already, and then just never respond.
Back to the episode. The first time that we see Lena or Denise's character when she's older, so it starts in 1995 and they're little baby kids.
Okay.
And then it goes to 1999 and you see them growing up a little bit. 2006, so it would have been 11 years after the first time we see them, is when we see Denise and her mom out to lunch or dinner, and she like comes out to her or whatever. And then the next one, she brings a girlfriend. I loved the idea of bringing Michelle once, the first girlfriend, who's beautiful, by the way.
Gorgeous.
She brings Michelle. It's awkward. Like, that's why Dev is just trying to talk at this dinner because it's so awkward. And they're just like yelling at him. And then she brings an awful girl home the next time.
Nipples
and Toes
23.
20. He's like, I can't believe there's 22 other nipples and toes. Which is a great joke. And then the idea that finally when they bring Michelle back for a second time because they get back together, that the montage of them, her and Aunt Joyce having the handshake and her and Dev hugging and that sweet scene with Angela Bassett in the kitchen when they're finally coming together and they do have some common ground. I guess Angela Bassett's character still might not fully understand it, but she realizes like they do have common ground. They both love Denise, which is great. And that's when the tears start flowing for me. That is like my favorite part of this entire show, which of course it is because it's like the climax of the episode and it's like the most heartwarming part. But I like love the idea that the way they come around for Michelle is that they brought this horrid girl. She brought this like horrid girl home.
Like absolutely horrible. Like,
I know.
Like the absolute worst.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that's a effective tactic. I don't think Denise's character was really going for that, but
yeah, I don't know how you could ever bring someone home that was like even remotely like cringy like that. I would be so self-conscious the whole time and so anxious about it. And yeah, I agree with you. Michelle's gorgeous.
Denise's personality though isn't really helping because she's just so chill and so laid back and just being like every time someone's doing something mean or awkward, she's just like, Mom, or like Aunt Joy. It's like you gotta like say so you gotta create a diversion here. My anxiety ridden ass would be so crazy. I'd be like throwing diversions and I'd be saying the most insane shit to get their eyes off of my girlfriend. I'd be like, I will do anything right now to make this less awkward. That's like my whole life, so I just know I would be a fucking psycho in that situation.
So fun fact, looking on her Wikipedia page, the person who played Nikki, aka Nipples and Toes 23, is famous because she was on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta and Love and Hip Hop New York.
Wow.
She was in Chloe and Courtney Take Miami, all these shows.
Wow.
And her occupation is television personality, singer, actress, former employee at Dash, recording artist, and former model.
So
Dash,
she was,
it.
so she worked at the Kardashian store.
Oh, Dash is
so
their
that's
store?
why she was on.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's why she was probably on the show. So I want to circle back real quick to, I thought this was so funny in the very beginning when you meet Denise and Dev and they're arguing of like who's brown versus who's black, and she's like, Mom, is Dev black? And then they start talking about what a franchise is. And the mom's like, how the hell you know what a franchise is, but you don't know that Dev ain't black?
I have that. That's the first note I have.
Me too.
Yeah.
I was dying laughing because she gives like a 3-sentence definition of what a franchise is.
Question for you, Kevin. I knew who Clarence Thomas was just in like a very general sense, but I couldn't find why the grandmom was like, fuck his ass. Like, I don't understand that because they're talking about, the mom's kind of talking about when black men get like rich enough, quote unquote, to have a white girlfriend, like bad things, whatever it is, and then they're like, what happened? They're always trying to like ruin his reputation or take him down, whatever it is. And then Denise's character, who's like a teenager at this point, is like, what about Clarence Thomas? And the grandma's just like, fuck his ass, which is really funny, and I could not understand it. I Googled, I tried everything. Do you understand it?
Yeah, Clarence Thomas is on the Supreme Court, and he's extremely conservative justice. Well, not right now. He's not the most conservative, but a lot of African Americans consider that to be like kind of a traitor.
A betrayal or something?
Yes. Yeah. Conservative values don't usually align with African American values, so that's in their eyes is why they do not like him.
Yeah, in the RBG documentary, they have this really cool kind of visual where they put all the Supreme Court justices up on a scale of liberal to conservative, and throughout the years they kind of move around. Like RBG went from being in the middle to going way left because she had to. It's like a really cool visual. Anyone who hasn't seen the RBG doc on Hulu you must.
I will watch
it's so
it now.
good.
You recommended it last week, but last week was not the week I wanted to watch more things about politics. Can I ask you guys what you watched in the week of election meltdown? Because the only thing that I watched was 5.5 seasons of Reno 911.
ahead.
I rewatched Schitt's Creek.
That's a good one. I didn't really watch anything that was. I mean, I've been rewatching Supergirl, which is always uplifting because it's the best show ever. But it gets really political in seasons 4 and 5, which is I'm on now, so it wasn't really helping me in the time. It's like was hitting way too close to home. My other podcast is doing Carnival Row, which is also very like discriminatory, if that's a word. I don't know. So it was like everything was giving me anxiety. So I watched Never Have I Ever, which is that cute show on Netflix. I crushed that in a day.
Oh my God, I don't know what anything is.
Yeah, and then I started. Okay, so I binged all of Song Exploder. Kev, have you watched Song Exploder?
Song Exploder's so good.
I know the Hamilton episode gave me life.
I have to watch Hamilton. It's on my list.
You haven't watched it?
Well,
yet?
I still only seen bits and pieces.
No, I've never seen it. Well, because when it came on Disney Plus, I'm a snob when it comes to musicals. So I'm like, I don't know if I would like this. So I didn't watch it. And then everyone was like, no, it's literally the fucking best. You have to watch it.
Yeah, it's
so
great.
it's on my list. But instead, I watched a Goofy movie yesterday because that just brings me
That's
joy
good
as
enough.
well.
Eagle cinematic classic.
I'm truly dying to go watch a Broadway show. Dying.
I mean, we're dying to see them. Guess who's dying? The performers. They are out of work.
Yes,
They
I
need
know.
help. Seriously, I feel so bad. That sucks.
I know.
I know.
It really sucks.
She's like on her phone while
No,
I'm
I'm-
rambling
I'm-
about musicals.
Dude, I'm looking at my notes for this episode because there's still a lot I feel like I just like love it. I think honestly, her coming out to her mom, I'm really bringing us right back.
Yep.
Her coming out to her mom was honestly seamless with her being like the pregnancy thing, with being like, you don't have to worry about me getting pregnant, and you know she like didn't want to say it.
Yeah.
It's still like it seamlessly happened because it wasn't just like I'm sitting you down, I'm telling you. Like at least there was a segue to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then speaking of that, when she's like not comfortable with saying the word lesbian and is saying Lebanese, and Dev's just like, you're Lebanese. Like,
Yeah.
It just kind of plays on the fact that she didn't know he was black, like in the previous scene from when they were younger, and then like a little bit later she's like, no, I'm not fucking Lebanese, I'm just not like comfortable saying lesbian yet. It's so funny, and they do it so well and so like believable.
Yeah.
For what I know.
I like hated the diner scene because I just felt so sad. Like it was like I think she even says when she comes out to Dev, like people act like it's a choice, and then like the mom kind of implies like it's your choice. Like, have you even tried it with a man? And
Yeah.
it's like, fuck, like
Yeah.
shut up, mom. It's just like, God damn it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, what I'll say is like I think that was a very realistic portrayal because like most of my friends, and I will say like if we're gonna put a personal spin on it, like that's a very, very common phrase that like a ton of my friends have like heard the first thing that their parents say, and particularly their mom is always like, well, I don't want life to be hard for you. But like the alternative is like, well, then it's harder if you don't do it. So it's like, I understand, like it comes from a place where it's like a genuine place of care, but that is the most common response I get, or like I've heard from friends. And like, this is a very easy coming out, I guess, compared to, or a very realistic one compared to like a lot of people, and a lot of people like have it so much worse too. Like the fact that her mom can make a joke right away and is like, you know, when she's talking about coming out and how she can't tell her grandma, and then she's like, well, you're gonna have to come out to her every other week. Like the fact that she can make a joke, it obviously takes a number of years for her to get comfortable with it, but
Right.
it is a very, like, I think a very realistic and meaningful portrayal of like how that comfort comes into fruition over time. And like, that's what bringing Michelle back makes it really easy for them to like all care about her and really understand it. So I think it was really like a very accurate portrayal.
Yeah.
Well, the I don't want life to be hard for you argument is kind of like, okay, well, if I don't come out, it's going to be internally hard and I'm going to be battling with myself.
Yeah.
At least if I come out and it's hard for me, quote unquote, it's like externally, and you can kind of combat that better than just being like internally, always at all times, not being who you are or like your authentic self. So
Yeah. I mean, there's two ends of the coin there, because the two I think that they really this could be her exact like coming out, and this could be exactly how it happened, but there's two very like big cliches, and I think that, and not in a bad way, but like the one where they're like, yeah, I don't want life to be hard for you, and then where the parents like think that they did something wrong is also like, it's a really dumb like it's a really dumb thought when you get down to it, because like your parents are obviously not doing that to you, but it's also like it's a defensive thought and comes from a place of care, but it's also like that's probably a very common response as well.
And it's very like meta, or not. I don't think that's the right word. Woke of that, because like Lena's character Denise calls it out before it happens. Like she's like when she comes out to Dev, she's like, people like parents will always go blaming themselves, and they don't know. They always say that, and then that's exactly what she says when her mom is alone with Aunt Joyce in the back. But Aunt Joyce has a good response. She's like, I forget all what she says, but she's like, she's in school, she's doing well, like she's not doing anything bad. She's still kind of so. But even though they're both like, the interaction they're having in the kitchen is very funny, because they're not used to it, and they're like having this conversation and talking about like, oh, she's gonna bring one of the girlfriends home, and Angela Bassett's just like exasperated by the idea of it. But so I don't know, the way that they did it over a certain amount of years and you're in the same kitchen the entire episode makes it feel like you actually did get to live throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's great the whole time. And also I'd watch anything with Angela Bassett in it, so it's just an extra bonus.
Okay, that's it. Have a good night. I'm just kidding.
I don't know why I was just thinking of this. So me and Matt's cousin Richie came out of the closet like 5 years ago, and he actually came out to me. And it's like funny when we say he came out, because Richie was like very like stealing dolls from his siblings, like his whole life, dancing to Britney Spears. Like he's always been very open about who he is, but never came out and said it. And it's just like thinking back to like how you're saying parents handle it. Like my Aunt Patty was like distraught, and like Richie's would call me and be like, what the fuck is wrong with her? Like
the only thing in this episode that we haven't talked about, that it's not even like something we can get super deep in, but the part that made me laugh, still tied to Nipples and Toes 23, but the chocolate milk.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like the back and forth about the chocolate milk is so funny. And it ending with Dev just being like, now I'm about to go make some chocolate milk with this grown-ass woman.
Yeah. That's a good bit.
She's like a total mess. But also, when was the last time you made chocolate milk? I mean, for Julie, you had hot chocolate yesterday.
They make peppermint patty, like you work peppermint patty hot chocolate, and it is fucking fire. Okay,
I do not eat.
I will drink it every day until I die.
I love chocolate milk and hot chocolate, and I never drink it ever. It's just
I
not
love
something
chocolate milk too, I never drink it.
Like I never have milk in my apartment unless
me neither, really.
Unless I see a box of cereal that I'm like, and then I'll buy milk, or if I'm making something with milk in it.
I'm the same way, and ironically, I went to Giant last night, and like 2 nights ago, Kenny was eating like these Oreo cookies that we have, but they're not Oreos. They're like, I don't know, like knockoff Oreos. Like the top's chocolate cookie and the bottom is vanilla. Like it's
honestly,
it doesn't make sense. And he's like shoving his mouth. He's like, "Do we have milk?" And I'm just like, "No, we never fucking have milk." So then I was food shopping yesterday, and I got like a small thing of milk, and Kenny's like, we're not going to drink this fucking milk. And I'm like, it's so true. I don't know why I bought the fucking milk. It was just in my head. Like,
I have a milk thing complex too. I'll go to the store and I'm like, this pint, what's that?
It's like the smallest one.
Whatever it is. I'm like, this is 89 cents. If I eat one bowl of cereal, I feel like it pays for itself. Yeah. And I'm constantly just throwing out so much milk.
Oh my God, I dump milk all the time.
Because I don't use it for anything else. What would you ever use milk for?
I have never dumped milk in my life.
Matt will eat like a slice of pizza with milk. Does that not make you physically ill?
Ew. Ill.
Do you know Matt said that we couldn't get deep on milk, and look what we did. We explored all the way.
No, people grew up having a glass of milk with dinner every night, and that would make me physically gag. And I'm about to start gagging on this mic.
I was out to dinner with this family the other night, and this like little girl ordered like this really nice fish for dinner, and then she's like, "I'll have milk," and I was like, I think I may have audibly said "ew."
Oh yeah, it's really disgusting. No, it is.
All right, Kev, any last thoughts on this episode?
No, I mean, I think it's a great episode. I've watched it probably 4 or 5 times now over the years, and producer Matt did say this as a recommendation. He was happy that someone picked this, but also he wanted somebody to do this episode. But it's also like the best Thanksgiving episode. The only other one that I would ever like want to do is, and I don't even like this show enough to like hype it up, but the Thanksgiving episode of Friends when Brad Pitt comes on, because I remember every single
best.
person in my family like watching that around the TV at my aunt's house because it was like a huge deal then. And
Yeah,
I
that's like a
just watched
nostalgic
that.
thing.
I just watched that yesterday.
You know what, Kevin? I'm so thankful for you.
I'm thankful for you guys, and I'm thankful to be on this podcast again.
Aw.
Toothy.
That wraps it up for
It sure
today.
does. It sure
Kevin,
does.
thank you so much for coming back. You look so hot with a beard. I've been dying to say it.
I love you,
Thank
happily.
you. Thank you, church friends.
This has been My Favorite Episode Of. My Favorite Episode Of is produced by Matt Kelly as part of the Geekscape Network and hosted by Julie and Kathleen. Check out our show notes for all of our socials and email us at myfavoriteepisodepodcast@gmail.com. Rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting apps, and we'll be back next week with another episode of My Favorite Episode Of.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network. You're listening to the Geekscape Network.